For any major economy, energy is security. It's fundamental. But for the United Kingdom, well, it's become a critical vulnerability. We're going to break down how a series of decisions has left them caught in what's now being called the UK energy trap.
This quote, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Britain is learning a very, very hard lesson. See, true national strength, it isn't just about borders or laws. It boils down to the fundamental ability to keep the lights on and keep your people warm.
So the question is, how did they get here? How did this happen? Well, while other nations were building up resilience, the UK, they ended up walking this energy tightrope. And let's be clear, this isn't some temporary problem. It's a deep structural fragility that's been built up over years. So let's dig into the foundation of that fragility.
Okay, right here, this is the absolute core of the problem. Look at this. The UK has one of the lowest gas storage capacities in all of Europe. We're talking barely enough for a few days of peak winter demand. Just days. Now, compare that to Germany or France, they can store months' worth of supply. This isn't just a small gap, it's a massive strategic chasm. What it means is simple. When a crisis hits, Britain has absolutely no buffer. None.
And that complete lack of storage, it creates this exact situation. It turns the entire United Kingdom into what the market calls a price taker. It means they have zero leverage, no power, they can't wait for prices to cool down, they can't shop around, they are forced to buy gas on the spot market at whatever the price is, right then and there, just to meet immediate demand. Think about that. They have to pay the premium, whatever it is, or the lights go out.
All right, so you've got this huge external vulnerability, but it gets worse. It's amplified by a unique problem inside the country. It's called the gas-to-power trap. And this is the mechanism that takes an external shock, like a price spike, and basically multiplies its damage throughout the entire British economy.
And here's what makes the UK's situation so precarious. In most countries, natural gas is mainly for heating homes. But in Britain, over 40% of all of their electricity comes directly from burning natural gas. They've hooked their entire system, both heat and power, to a single incredibly volatile commodity. A massive strategic gamble. So this dependency, it was basically a time bomb. And in February, it went off. Conflict flared up in the Middle East, and the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy choke points, was effectively shut down. For a country like Britain, so utterly dependent on imported gas, the effect was, well, it was immediate and it was brutal.
The consequence? It wasn't gradual. Wholesale gas prices didn't just rise, they exploded. A 67% spike. In 1 month. Let that sink in. 67%. For a nation that's a price taker, with no reserves, a shock of that magnitude, it slams directly into the entire economy. There's nowhere to hide from it.
So here's the crucial point. This is the trap. Because of that insane reliance on gas for everything, every single price spike delivers what you can only call a double hit to the average person. It hits you once on your heating bill, that's the direct gas use, then it hits you a second time on your electricity bill because the power plants are paying that same insane price for the gas they have to burn to keep your lights on. You just can't win. But the pain, it doesn't stop at your front door, not even close. The real long-term damage, the slow economic bleeding, is happening to the country's industrial backbone. We're talking about an industrial exodus. Just look at this chart. The result is a devastating reality for British business. Industrial electricity costs in the UK are now the highest in the entire G7. Not just high, the highest. That bar is nearly double the EU median. How can you possibly compete on a global stage with that kind of handicap?
And this isn't some abstract number. It translates into real-world pain. 40% of UK manufacturers have been forced to cut investment this year. And they're not cutting back on bonuses. They're cutting investment in the future, in new equipment, in growth, all just to pay the power bill. You're literally sacrificing tomorrow just to stay alive today.
Let's make no mistake about what this is. We are watching a deindustrialization happen in real time. The country's industrial soul is being hollowed out, one factory, one business at a time, all because of this energy trap. And really, you have to ask yourself the simple, logical question. If you run a business, a chemical plant, a steel mill, anything that uses a lot of power, why would you stay in a country where your biggest cost is double what your competitors are paying in France or in the US? The answer is simple. You wouldn't. You'd pack up and leave. It's just business.
So,
Why should anyone outside the UK care about this? Why does this story matter to the rest of us? Because what's happening in Britain right now, it's a warning. It is the British canary in the global coal mine.
Look, every major nation has its own Achilles heel, its own fragility. For the UK, it's clearly energy. For the United States, you could argue it's fiscal, with our national debt racing towards $39 trillion. But the core lesson is exactly the same. The UK is giving the world a masterclass in what happens when deep, foundational cracks are suddenly exposed by a geopolitical shock. The trigger might be different for each country, but the result of ignoring that kind of instability, it's always the same.
So when you boil it all down, the ultimate lesson from the UK comes down to this. When you combine friction at your borders with fragility in your grid, you get a toxic cocktail, and it's one that cripples an economy from the inside out.
And so, we watch the UK. It's a stark, real-time warning of what happens when a nation neglects its most basic, fundamental foundations. It's a reminder that no matter how complex or advanced an economy gets, in the end, it's only as strong as its ability to keep the power on.